is not one woman on this panel, and I almost walked out just on the strength of that. I am so tired of white men failing up.
Quote, like a grizzly bear with tits. Quote, does your husband eat you? Quote, get naked, bitch.
Today we have two clips of the FDIC chairman testifying in the House and the Senate. The FDIC as a whole is currently in some hot water after a report about misconduct came out.
A recent audit and major news investigation found serious problems with the FDIC's workplace culture, including pervasive sexual harassment, bullying, and discrimination on the basis of gender, race, and sexuality, all spanning a period of decades. Martin Gruenberg has spent the last 2 days trying to convince skeptical lawmakers on Capitol Hill that he should keep his job.
As you saw in the short preview there, John Kennedy and Ayanna Pressley both kind of chose different ways to approach this. Ayanna Pressley went with the usual DEI woke kind of mindset, and she complained about the fact that there were no women at the table and that she was going to walk out of the hearing because of it. And then John Kennedy employed his usual style of using someone's words or actions against them to make his point, sometimes in a shock and awe kind of way. As always, enjoy your taxpayer-funded reality TV show.
I had initially planned to spend this time discussing regulations and requesting updates from Chair Gruenberg on the timeline for finalizing rules that stabilize our financial system. However, after reading the recent report into the FDIC's workplace, the public needs answers on the toxic culture of racial discrimination and misogyny that has taken root and festered at the FDIC. Chair Gruenberg, you have failed your staff, people of every walk of life, but especially women employees who have brought their knowledge and their skills to serve at the FDIC, and you have failed the American public, who relies on the agency to work productively and to put forth policies that protect consumers from bank malfeasance. Now, I have to just consider the source here when it comes to some of the outrage from my colleagues across the aisle, because these are the same people who seek to actively defund diversity, equity, and inclusion, who denied and undermined the Me Too movement, who voted against the Violence Against Women reauthorization, and who don't want to support finally passing the Equal Rights Amendment. And that is why I am truly disgusted by the fact that you have created an opportunity for Republicans who did all of those things to advance their anti-regulation agenda and to use survivors, which I am one, of abuse as political pawns. Moreover, there is not one woman on this panel, and I almost walked out just on the strength of that. But the only reason why I didn't is because that is a systemic issue here in Congress and often for people who come before this committee. And if you don't have one woman in a position of leadership and authority that should be there, then that is also a problem. But again, women, hundreds of women, the report detailed hundreds of women who experienced harassment with no recourse. For over a decade, the FDIC, under your leadership and your predecessors, ignored them. Chair Gruenberg, in November, in fact, not that long ago, you stated that the FDIC already has, quote, appropriate policies and procedures in place, unquote. Do you now agree, and this is a yes or no question, I'm serious, do you now agree that the policies and procedures in place have been a cataclysmic failure and an affront to the many women who have been harassed, pushed out of the FDIC, and forced to change their career goals and life trajectory?
They have failed, yes, Congresswoman.
Small, ashamed, traumatized, humiliated, alone. These are just a few of the words to describe the intense feelings of sexual harassment and what survivors endure. According to the FDIC's own reporting, more than 80% of harassment complaints resulted in zero discipline. And when there were repercussions, not a single one resulted in removal, reductions in grade or pay, or any discipline more serious than a temporary suspension. I am so tired of white men failing up. This lack of accountability is a shameful, inadequate, and deeply unsatisfactory, and it is re-traumatizing. Chair Gruenberg, can you guarantee right now no employee at the FDIC will face any form of intimidation or retaliation for reporting an incident of sexual harassment, regardless of confidentiality agreements?
That's our goal, Congresswoman. Yes, the answer to that is yes.
It is shameful that through your inadequate leadership at the helm of this agency, that you have fueled calls for your resignation from the political opportunists across this aisle and jeopardized critical regulations pending finalization at your agency. Personally, I do not have confidence that you can continue to lead in this role because there is a deficit of trust and your credibility has been undermined to lead the FDIC through the changes it needs to make to affirm the dignity of the survivors of harassment, discrimination, and abuse at your agency.
I hope Senator Al Franken is watching today. If it weren't for double standards around this place, there wouldn't be any standards at all. Mr. Gruenberg, have you ever heard the expression, a fish rots from the head down?
Yes, Senator.
I understand I listened carefully to your testimony. Do I understand you to assert that you believe you're the person to clean up the FDIC?
I do, Senator.
Do you also believe that Elvis is alive?
Not to my knowledge, Senator.
Do you also believe in Bigfoot?
No, sir.
Have you read this report?
Yes, sir.
You've been the chairman of the FDIC 10 of the last 13 years, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
And you've been there for 20 years almost, haven't you?
Nearly, yes, sir.
And this sleaze has been going on for decades, has it not?
I think the report makes that finding, Senator.
Did you read the part of the report where one of your supervisors described one of your young female employees as being, quote, like a grizzly bear with tits, close quote?
I've read the report, Senator.
Did you read the part of the report where one of your supervisors asked a young female employee, quote, does your husband eat you? Did you read that?
I have read the report, Senator.
Did you read the part of the report where one young employee said her supervisor sent her a text? You know what the text said? Quote, get naked, bitch. Did you read that?
Yes, sir.
Did you read the part of the report where one of your supervisors turned to one of your Hispanic employees and asked him to recite the Pledge of Allegiance to prove that he is an American? Did you read that?
I read it, sir.
You're not going to be able to clean up the FDIC because you're going to be too busy defending yourself in court. I'm going to introduce a bill to extend the statute of limitations to allow every employee at the FDIC to file suit over this sexual abuse and this sexual discrimination and this racism. And you're going to be spending all your time in court. Now, the Cleary Gottlieb report doesn't think you're the person to clean up the FDIC, does it?
I don't know that the report reaches that conclusion, but it certainly has critical comments in regard to me, Senator.
Well, I mean, the FDIC report says that it says that even your senior leaders feel, quote, disrespected, disparaged, and treated unfairly by you. Did I quote that correctly?
Yeah, I have read the report, Senator.
And the Cleary Gottlieb report, it goes on to say that your long tenure and reputation for losing your temper and bullying people, quote, presents unique challenges, close quote, for you to change the agency. Did you read that part?
I have read it, Senator.
And the Cleary Gottlieb report also says It questions whether you have the, quote, moral authority to do so. Is that correct?
I have read the report, Senator.
Yes, sir. You fixing this agency, Mr. Gruenberg, is like asking, it's like asking Alec Baldwin to conduct a course in gun safety. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. And Mr. Sue, you ought to be ashamed of yourself for acting like a lickspittle here today, trying to defend this gentleman. Have you ever read a worse report, Mr. Gruenberg, in all your years?
It's a bad report, Senator.
Yeah, it's bad. Look, I could go through this report. I'm embarrassed to have to even read some of these allegations. These folks on the first row behind you, are they FDIC employees?
Some of them are, Senator, yes.
Would you like to turn around and apologize to the female employees sitting behind you at the FDIC?
I have, Senator.
Would you like to do that now?
If you ask me to, I will.
I think you should.
I apologize.
And now I think you ought to resign. I'm done, Mr. Chairman.